Speechwire?
Yeah, I use it all the time. It's really nice to check like scores and stuff.
Speechwire is a very beautiful website.
I really like Speechwire because I can look up people and know what's happening.
No.
I have no idea who operates it, but thumbs up to you.
You're like the Santa Claus of speech team.
Speechwire. It's been used in 35 states in more than 3 countries at over 3,000 tournaments. But who is the mastermind behind this speech phenomenon, and where is he now?
Oh, hi. I'm Ben. I started doing speech when I was a freshman in high school in 2000, which is quite a while ago it seems like. And I did speech all 4 years when I was in high school, and it was the main activity that I was focused on as a high school student, and I loved it. It was fantastic. I didn't really know what I was going to do in high school when I first got there, and I was just looking for an activity and went to the informational meeting for speech, and they had this radio speaking event, and I thought, well, you know, if there's something that I could probably at least do somewhat well, it's that, because I got a voice that just kind of works for that. So I joined it, did HI, which was a really bad idea, a terrible idea, learned that that was something that I should not pursue, and then oratory also at that point. But my team was kind enough to believe in me all 4 years and enter me in the state series for radio, even as a freshman, which was really an awesome experience and got me the confidence that I needed to do better and succeed in it my junior year at the state level. But beyond that, after I graduated, I didn't do speech in college, although I've learned that college speech is really cool, and I kind of wish I had. I really wish I had. But since then, of course, I've been running tournaments starting in 2004, which was my freshman year of college. So that's when I started Speechwire and started doing what I do now. It goes actually all the way back to my father. My Aunt Mary worked for Commodore, and I'm sure no one watching this video knows what Commodore is. Commodore was this computer company in like the 80s, and they built these big boxes with black and green screens, and that was the first computer that we got, and my dad was taking classes to learn how to program it, so he sort of taught me how to program, and from a young age I was messing with the computer and doing stuff like that. And after graduating, my coach, Mr. Austin, inspired me to create the system. I'd always wanted to make a system to run tournaments. I thought that'd be really fun. I didn't really even care what type of tournament. And he came to me independently and just said, you know, I have to sit there for 8-9 hours moving cards around and doing crazy stuff and writing on chalkboards, and I think he had stone tablets. I mean, he had all sorts of stuff to schedule his tournament. And he was wondering if there was some way I could get the computer to help, maybe make the process a little bit easier. And so I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. And he taught me in his living room kind of how he went and scheduled a tournament, what he would look out for. And so I then took that information and put it into a form that would work in the computer. And from that point forward, a lot of people have helped me and have inspired me to learn how they do things in their communities, in states and places all over the country. And all over the world at this point, although not that much all over the world, but a little bit. And all that has led the service to become, hopefully, better and better. But what really inspires me to keep doing Speechwire is interacting with so many great coaches and being able to be involved in the experience of so many students who are so dedicated to this activity. And I'm really grateful to have that opportunity. So that's kind of what keeps me going week to week. It's long. I think in general a tournament day is kind of lengthy. I'll usually get to the tournament pretty early because the issue is that I usually have tournaments going on in a number of time zones. So I'll get to the tab room, kind of set up my computer, and just wait for people who are running their tournaments on my platform to call if they have questions, if they have something they need help with. And then also it's just helping wherever I happen to be. So it might be in Illinois. I love to be back in Illinois and spending time with the community that meant so much to me and that gave me so much, and try to give back as much as I can in those tab rooms. But it's also being in other places where I may not be familiar with what they're doing. So it's learning how they do things in other places and learning how speech is different in their states and how the opportunities for students are different. And through that, my service gets a lot better. So the tournament day is really about interacting with people and teaching people how to use my service, but also learning from them how I can serve them better. And it's really exciting to be involved in the process in that way. So I'll travel probably about half the weeks, or maybe it's more than that now, I don't know. But it can be by car sometimes, but sometimes more recently it's been by plane. I was in Denver last week, which of course won't be last week when you're watching this, but just take my word for it, I was there. And then a couple weeks before that I was in California and North Carolina, dodging floods just before that. But it's been fun to do that. Obviously it gets a little bit exhausting, but you know, airports are airports, and it's just fun to learn. The main thing is meeting people. I really value the relationships that I've gotten to have with a lot of directors of forensics at colleges and a lot of coaches, and learning how they do things and how their states are different. And that's what kind of keeps you going. Travel is travel. Don't let anybody tell you that, you know, air travel is super glamorous. If you have to do it every week, it gets a little tiring. But I feel really very lucky to get to see so many places, and I'm very grateful to the activity for letting me have that chance and for starting me on that path. So I really like about speech that it builds a lot of skills and qualities that end up being really useful later in life. And as someone who's reached like later in life, I could tell you that it is really valuable, and it's come in handy for me innumerable times throughout running Speechwire. It's not just all about the computer. Obviously the computer is part of it, and I'm very happy to be able to code and program and all that stuff. But it's also about being able to walk into a room with a lot of people that you've never met. Maybe it's a new state that I've not worked with before, where I need to learn what it is that they do and how they do it. And so these are professionals who know what they're doing and are very good at running tournaments, and I need to not be able to hard sell them, or that's not my goal, is to sell them something. My goal is to learn what they do and to convince them that I can help them and streamline their processes, make it easier to run their tournament, make it easier to give students those opportunities, and maybe even go home early and have dinner with their family, which is kind of the overall goal. And the reason why any of this really came about was people wanting to go home and have dinner with their family instead of being at awards at 7 o'clock p.m. or 8 o'clock p.m., depending on where you are. But even beyond that, I've got to mention that I also think that speech provides a really good sense of belonging to a lot of students, including me, when I joined the speech team. It's not that I felt totally out of place in school. I was having a great time in school already, but I didn't really feel like I totally belonged anywhere. And having the speech team really gave me a feeling that I was part of something, and that I was taking part in these events that were really bigger than me. And we're not just giving me valuable experience, but I was meeting people. I have all these memorable moments about being on stage at awards or being in a final round and thinking, gosh, this is so exciting, and really enjoying it. So it's the skills, but it's also just the experience of doing it and being part of something that I thought was so neat. It is largely a one-man job. During the week when I'm tech supporting people through email, when people are emailing me asking if their coach account, for instance, if they're trying to register their entries for a tournament, or there's students who are coming to a tournament and they can't get in, I'll help them try to get that straightened out. Or if tournament managers are asking me for help with making sure their settings are right, making sure that people are getting in okay. In that case, I'm just responding to their email. It sounds super exciting, I know, just thrilling. And then on the weekend, when I'm answering the phone, a lot of times it's just me. I have had help. A good friend of mine has helped with tech support at times, and that's been really great. But in general, fortunately, the service works pretty well, knock on wood, most of the time. And because of that, a lot of the time there aren't too many phone calls, which is good. So I can really devote myself to making sure that things are hopefully very reliable, hopefully very accurate, hopefully all the right students get the right medals. We've all been there. Don't like when you get the wrong medal, don't like when maybe you should have been in a final but you weren't in a final. So it's all about trying to prevent that type of stuff. And that can be difficult at times. There can be a lot of sort of balls that you're juggling at once. A lot of tournaments going on. I'll have up to 50 in one day sometimes going on, and it's hard to keep straight kind of in my head what all is happening, but fortunately there's so many people who have learned the service and so many people who are such consummate professionals across the country running tournaments that they're the ones who make sure that stuff goes well a lot of the time. So I'm sort of the last line of defense, but what makes my job a lot easier is the clients that I work with, and that's your coaches. They're such good people and so committed to what they do that they really make this work. So I'm glad to be part of it, but I'm glad to have them. Well, obviously I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for speech, but that's really easy to say. Like, clearly I wouldn't have learned about the activity. I don't know what I would be doing if it wasn't for speech. That's kind of a disturbing question. But speech didn't just prepare me because I was a competitor. It also prepared me because of all of the experiences that I had. And really, it prepared